Hey guys, thank you very much for tuning into this episode of the podcast. Just a quick shout out to the If You Give a Dad a podcast. The exact same time that I uploaded this episode with Nick from OriginalGeek, he actually dropped an interview with someone else from OriginalGeek as well, which is actually the second week within the same couple of weeks that we've dropped an episode where both our guests correlate with something. So yeah, both our guests are in OriginalGeek, so make sure you check out If You Give a Dad a podcast. Just wanted to give them some love. They're the reason why I started podcasting in the first place. You could call him the dad of our podcast. And yeah, just make sure you check out If You Give a Dad podcast after you've listened to this. Let's go.
Welcome to the Tiger Nexus podcast, a place where you'll find interviews with content creators and geeks alike. Your host, Tiger, has delved upon the Nexus and found interesting content creators and geeks of all fandoms. This podcast is connected to the Zero to Hero Network, and now we dive in with another episode!
Hello everybody and welcome to the Tiger Nexus podcast. Today my guest is actually someone I've been following for a little while. He has a big attachment to the host of If You Give a Dad a podcast. He is the founder of OriginalGeek and he has several comic books which we will dive into. I cannot wait to talk about this. I'm very much looking forward to it. But I give you Nick. Hi Nick, how's things?
Good. How about yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I'm in the UK, it's been very grey and cloudy and very miserable weather-wise, but other than that, everything seems to be okay.
Yeah. What time is it that you said it was 10 there, right?
Well, now that your clocks have gone, it's now 11 here, because my clocks went a week ago.
Yeah, the great daylight savings time, that's a big waste of time. Got it. Cool.
Yeah, so... mine happened last week, so there's always about a week where there's normally we're about 6 hours difference, but about 2 weeks of the year we're about 5 hours difference.
Okay, that's interesting.
So what's the weather like with your end?
It looked like it was going to storm earlier. It was really windy. I'm pretty sure that Jared is supposed to be having some bad storms he's more up north. I'm down central in Arkansas, and so I think he's supposed to have some bad storms, but it was windy earlier, but it's good now, so.
I know the boys in Zero to Hero, Billy and Jim, they were talking about how they may get some severe storms coming their end soon, so it definitely looks like you guys might be, well, not you specifically, but America is going to be hit with some storms soon. We don't get major storms here. We get some rain. It rains 80% of the year here, but I wouldn't say we have storms or anything. But yeah, honestly, thank you for coming on. It's I'm really happy that I literally asked Jared of this recording. I asked Jared 2 days ago if he would be willing to come on. And you literally messaged me within 10 minutes of me messaging Jared.
Well, I was sitting next to him, so
that's what Jared said. Jared was like, my phone died, but he was literally sat right next to me. I was like, cool. So let me ask first off, what got you into doing your own comic books?
Oh man, that is a long story. To be honest with you.
I have the time.
Yeah, that's what we're here for, right? So
yeah, exactly.
As far as doing my own comics, basically the way that happened to that is basically that I had these ideas of doing these films and stuff, and built up in my head, and eventually I just decided to do comics. But if we go back to learn the history of how Little Nick became who I am today. It was really because of Batman the Animated Series and Spider-Man the Animated Series. Both of those really shaped my foundation of who I am and being a geek. And so I remember watching Batman the animated series for the first time, and I didn't know who superheroes were or anything because I think I was like 4 or 5, something like around that age. Early '90s. I think it was about '92 on this. Maybe 90, 91, 92, somewhere around that. So basically started watching that, and then I was like, well, these superheroes are cool. I love Batman, I love Spider-Man, and what so then I found out that they started off as comic book characters, and luckily where I was at there was a comic book shop, a few miles down the street from us. So my dad took me there, and I started getting comics. Was getting Superman comics and Batman, Spider-Man stuff. I didn't get it like a whole lot, but it was just every once in a while it would take us up there. It's not like I was a big collector or anything back then, but I remember getting I remember when having the death of Superman and stuff like that. That was kind of like a thing, and the return of the Supermen, where there was like four Superman imposters or whatever, if you want to label that as. And I had those comics. I remember those specifically, having all those, and that's basically what got my start to what I am. And so I guess if you would be good, so that's kind of what got my geeky start. And then flash forward to college, the first time I went to college, right after I graduated high school. So we're talking about like '06. I graduated in '05, and I didn't waited a year to go to college in '06. Went through a whole year of college, and I had started writing because I was big into Smallville then. And when I went to college, I wanted to major in journalism. Um, and so I started writing newspaper articles for the school newspaper at the college. And then in '07, the next year, my second year of college, I became the first ever entertainment editor at the newspaper there. And then I met a guy who's working for me, and he did movie scripts. And so he taught me how to write those and gave me a book called Lou Hunter's Screenwriting 434. So Lou Hunter, at that time, was one of the major film teacher of screenwriting at UCLA, University of California, Los Angeles, which is like the biggest film program on the planet. And so he wrote that book, and I got that book from him, and I studied that and learned how to do screenwriting, and that's where during that time, I came up with the idea of Vengeance, which is one of my comics, and I spent, I wrote a movie script for it, and then, I was going to make the movie myself, and then I decided not to after like casting people and stuff because I just wanted to do it right. And then, so I had that, and then I came up with like two more movies. Then I just kept building on this mythology, and then a couple years had come by, and I had built on so much mythology that I had enough I could do a TV series, like 50 something episodes at least of how much I had. So I started writing those, got several of those scripts written, TV scripts, and I was going to do my own web series with it, and same deal. I ended up not doing it just because I wanted it to be special, and I put that project away for like 12 years or something like that. And then and I just always thought about it and always went back to it. And I was like, I'd love to do this in some way. And then it was like 2019, I think, when I started collecting comic books again, like because I had left the geek world behind for a while, just due to a bunch of stuff. Kind of left my roots. I still liked some of the stuff, but I wasn't collecting comics. But in 2019, I started collecting comics again, and that's when I decided to do Vengeance as a comic. And it took me, I wrote the scripts. I wrote like 6 scripts right off the bat, and then I had an artist, and he took like 2 years, I think, to draw the first book. It took a real long time, and then that's kind of like got me. That's where I got started in comics, and that was a long journey to get there, Ty. But I mean, that's where we're at.
Yeah, see, I've interviewed a couple of indie comic book publishers, and there's three things I've always noticed. First one, they always fall off the geek train at some point in their life. They always like just life just gets in the way. Which, like you said, it happens. You know, life happens. It's fine. I've done it myself. And then there's always one defining factor that like gets them hurt. So you said yours was like the Batman animated series and things like that. For another indie comic book artist that I spoke to, his was the Black Panther movie. So there's always like one or maybe two very specific superhero type of media that gets people hooked into like exactly what they're into. And then you mentioned that the first comic book took like a year to do. It took a while. I always find their first comic books are always like not exactly long, but to them it feels long, which is understandable because this is your creation. It's your mind going to paper. You know, so I can imagine it the length of time that it was must have felt like even longer to you because it's your baby at the end of the day. You know, it's like a child of yours. So I can imagine it felt longer than what it actually was.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it was like 2 years. The artist that he kept using excuses of why pages weren't getting done. It was just a big hoopla. But at that time, I didn't really know anybody, and so I kind of just let everything. I just dealt with whatever was being told to me. So I didn't really argue up against that. And I was just so happy that, somebody was going, I was eventually, finally getting a story out, that I've had, I said, a bunch, that I just had this story in my head for so long with Vengeance and just building that up and being able to do what I finally being able to do the story. I was just happy for that. And so, but it did seem like a long time because I can't draw stick figures, barely. And so once you pass that off to artists, you're just sitting there waiting for them to get done because it doesn't take me that long to crank out a script when I actually take the time to sit down and do it. But it is it seems like a really long process, and I'll never like really complain too much about the process that it takes for artists because there's a lot, and I couldn't do it, so I couldn't draw the stuff, so I really can't say too much about it, because I wouldn't be able to do it.
So we're recording this early November. At this moment in time, you've got 5 comic books published, right? At the moment?
Yeah, I have 5 comic books.
So, out of the 5 books, which one do you think took the longest from your idea to it being published itself? Which one do you think took the longest?
Well, definitely Vengeance 1 took that long, and like I said, it was just because I will mention that the book wasn't even done after the 2 years that it took him to get the pages. It was literally just pencils. So, like, I ended up finding somebody local that I randomly met at a comic book shop to do the inks, and then after he did the inks, then I lettered it. And once he got on there, I think, when we had met and got together, his name's Jake Jackson. He was the artist on the first 3, or he's the inker on the first book, penciler, and inker on the second and the third book of Vengeance. We have 3 issues out at this current time, and he when we met and we decided to do the comic thing, there was a period of time where I was doing a lot of different stuff, and we didn't end up when we first met. Then he was going to do the inks. We couldn't really settle on what would be a price, and some different things we had disagreements on, and mainly I felt like he was wanting a pay that was like more than what professionals would make, like someone from Marvel or DC. I wanted more than that, basically, and it was just something I couldn't do. And then I think it had been a few months, 3 to 6 months, somewhere in that range, whenever I decided that I was it was late 2021, and I decided that I wasn't going to do anything anymore creative wise because I was just really, I mean, I do a lot all the time, and I was just kind of in my head and depressed. And so I decided I wasn't going to do creative stuff anymore. And I said that online, and he saw that, and he called me and told me, let's do your comic. We'll work something out with the money. Ended up paying him half of what he originally told me. And we worked it out, and he started inking. And we threw a Kickstarter up pretty quickly. And that funded within 7 days. When the Kickstarter ended, I think we had the book out because by the time that it had been like a month, he inked that book in like a month, and so by the time the Kickstarter was over, the book was completely done. And so we ended up, putting it out pretty then. So once that process got started and we got that finished, it was pretty much, had been like 2.5 years since the book when I finished the script and had the dude start drawing it at that point in time, and nothing's come close to that. Any of our other books has never taken that long to do. So I mean, we've been putting books out on a consistent basis. There was like a big gap between 1 and 2 because I had a bunch of stuff going on personally, but it wasn't like it was like a year gap before we actually started working on it. So it wasn't. But as far as creation time, most of the books that are really about 6 months, I think, is about average, maybe a little less now. So that's not bad. Think about it.
Yeah, I find when it comes to the creative world, especially if you're not mainstream, if you're very indie, I do audio dramas on YouTube. Jared's actually one of my voice actors. It does take time. People have families, children, jobs, whatever the case may be. And I find that sometimes, it's okay to take breaks. And, like you said, there's a gap between 1 and 2, which, it's gonna, especially with comic books. Comic books is a lot harder to do than a lot of other creative storytelling media. With an audio drama, I can write a chapter, I can record it, give my voice actors, 2 to 3 weeks to get me their lines, and I can get the chapter done in a month. For an example, where a comic book, there's a lot more to it. Like you said, there's drawing, there's, you gotta figure out what page is what and all this sort of stuff. Like you said, you got Kickstarters and stuff. So yeah, I can imagine that, there is quite a, I wouldn't say toll on you, but I guess that is kind of the word I'm looking for. There's a bit of a toll on, getting the comic books out. When did the first comic book come out?
It was September 2021, I believe, was the exact date on that.
So that's 5 comic books in, well, let's call it, 21, 20. Yeah, let's call it 4. Yeah, that's not too bad, though, to be fair. So...
Yeah, so, like I said, I guess it's November 2024, so technically it's been 3 years, but I did take a year break, so, I mean...
Yeah, that's what I mean, you took a year break and you managed to get 5 out. That's not too shabby. That's not too bad, mate. I'm not gonna lie, that's pretty good. So I'm just gonna quickly make a word of warning to the listeners that from this point on, I will be asking you details about the books, and so if people don't want any spoilers or anything like that, this is your point to, read the comics first.
Yeah, I will try to. I'll try to, unless you ask specific questions that I can't help but put spoilers, but I'll try to limit as much as I can.
So this is the listener's warning that from this point on, I'll be asking a bit more story character questions. So if you haven't read the comics, please make sure you do so if you're interested. Your first comic book was Vengeance. What was the inspiration behind the character and the comic book?
So Vengeance follows Nick Burrow, who is a college baseball player and investigative journalist who lives in the town of Metron. and he writes a newspaper article about the Nightmare Gang, which is a gang that's kind of like runs the town basically. It's a real bad place, like kind of like Gotham, sort of. And so that's basically the start of our story. And really, all the characters, like I said, I wrote this, I was like 19 years old, I think. 19, maybe somewhere between 19 and 20. I wrote this as a movie originally, and I had never written anything like this before. Something creative like this, coming up with my own. And basically, I took inspiration from everybody that was around me in my life at that time, even people that I worked with randomly for like a month at Target. So it's just I just took inspiration from people. Whenever I was a senior in high school, I played baseball. Like I said, I was going to college for journalism. I was a big Superman fan, investigative journalist, and then there's a lot of Batman influence in there. So it was just basically what I was into at the time, of where I got my story, and the characters in the books. Originally, when I wrote it, they were all based on people that I knew at the time, and they have been. A lot of their names have changed throughout the years, and their likenesses. But that's basically, I took inspiration from what was around me at that time. I don't really do that much anymore. I think that every writer, I'm a people watcher, and I kind of take people's personalities and stuff that I see and the way that people talk now, not straight off like, rip off of somebody. It's just kind of like, this is how this person acts and talks and stuff, and I kind of like take that. It's a little bit different. It was more intense, when I first wrote Vengeance, and now it's kind of, it's just, and I think that I think that writers do that, they sit in, cafes and stuff and watch people, Starbucks or whatever, and watch people and stuff and see how the world works and stuff. And I think that everybody probably does that a little bit. I could be wrong, and it could just be me. I don't know. But that's the way I feel, It's kind of hard not to take some type of influence from people when you're trying to come up with stuff.
Yeah, I'll admit, as a story writer myself, I base some characters off of like, certain traits of my son, certain traits of Cosplay 267 or his children. Jared, I've actually like based a couple characters off like how Jared is. Billy and Jim. It's an easy thing to do, isn't it? Because it's not like you're cheating, but it's almost like using the inspiration of people and events around you. It's kind of just, it's just helpful, and I've taken events from personal life, other people's personal lives, and like I've altered it, and yeah, it's a good way of doing it. You said that, writers do it a lot, and yeah, I'll agree. I've done it. It's a very easy, and it's also very fun too. You can also have a lot of fun with it.
Yeah, well, you had to also think that, all great stories, people can, find some and to latch onto in that story. And I think using people's inspiration from real life people will help your audience be able to relate more to the people that are in your story as well. So I think that's actually smart if you think about it.
Yeah, that's very true. So with Vengeance being your first book, you've also got two other books that have come out that are under your company name. One of them is the I want to say Whispers in the Dark.
Yeah, Whispers in the Dark. That's the new one that just came out.
So that's the one I haven't actually checked out yet. Because I was able to check out some of these books beforehand. I've read a lot of I want to say it's called The Eighth Hero.
Eighth Day.
Thank you. That's it. Eighth Day. I've read a lot of that. I'm really hooked on that. I haven't managed to finish it yet, but I do really like your fight scenes in that. That is just absolutely incredible. I'm going to butcher this name, but the one character that like screamed at me, and I was like, "Oh my god, that is cool." I'm going to try and pronounce the person's name, so I apologize if I butcher this. Hydriana?
Adriana, yeah, that's it.
That, oh my god, like the water shark like ability, that is just so cool, man. That like just watching the fight scene with, I was like, okay, that is awesome. Gave me very Naruto vibes, but as a Naruto fan, I like kind of geeked out about that. It was just really awesome. I really liked that character. But my next question is, with the 8th Day storyline, Vengeance is in that one. So is all your comic books like taking place in the same universe? Are they kind of like a DC Marvel thing where, like, you know, they all kind of exist in the same like existence, or what's going on there?
Yeah, you're gonna like this when I really get into it, because I know where you got your start in your stories, and so you'll like how this became. So we have an OG multiverse. I have like a multiverse map thing that has all the different universes, and every project that we have that is going on, has happened, or is going to happen, and then like stuff that I want to build more in this universe. I think that if you go to our Instagram, Original Geek on Instagram, one of the pin posts is like all of our multiverses that have been announced so far, all the universes that have been announced. And so what you'll like about this is that, so the 8th Day is a post-apocalyptic alternate universe of the main superhero universe that Vengeance is in. So it's basically what happened is back in the past, that this event happens and Vengeance's past, and in the normal universe he does things one way, but in the other universe he does something different and really bad, which creates this other universe. And that inspiration came from Injustice in a way. Oh, that's so what you're seeing in the 8th Day is the post-apocalyptic possible future if Vengeance doesn't make the right choice.
See, yeah, I love that. So one thing that Jared will even tell you is multiverses are my thing. I love the idea of the multiverse. I resonate with the multiverse so much. I love it. 90% of my stories, or audio dramas, should I say, are linked together via the multiverse. I have like characters that are existing in multiple storylines. I have a character called Dante, and there's literally a Dante or a Logan in almost every storyline of mine, and things like this. I just love it. It's great. And so, yeah, the fact that, you know, I'm reading, I've started Vengeance and I've started the 8th Day, and you're playing in the whole multiverse. I just love that. That's awesome. That's really cool. Is the newest comic book, Whisper of the Dark, is that taking place in a different universe, or is that existing in a universe that you've already shown already?
Whispers in the Dark is a horror book, and it takes place in another universe, and this universe is going to be all horror-based projects.
I'm liking this a lot. I'm not gonna lie. I'm geeking out just a little bit. So is your multiverse idea, is it all comic book, or are you hoping to like expand it to other medias?
Well, I'm glad that you asked that, because we are expanding it into other ones. In fact, I don't. What we're working on, which I need to finish one more script of, is a superhero audio drama called The Ripoffs. And so Jared's going to be in charge of that project, but it's it's set in the Vengeance universe. It follows a group of cosplayers who, after they stop a crime, decide, hey, we could be superheroes. And so it's a comedy drama that like a dramedy, and it's 6 episodes, and yeah, that's set in the same Vengeance universe, and we will end up doing more stuff like that. But yeah, audio drama is the next thing we're going to bring into the OG multiverse. And what else happens? I'm not for sure, but we'll see.
See, that's awesome. I like it when people branch out and like explore different, because like, you've got Marvel and DC, they do exactly the same. You mentioned Injustice. I love Injustice. I love the storyline of Injustice. The Injustice game, the first one, is actually the whole reason why I'm a content creator in the first place. So like, I just love the whole idea of the fact that you can have a comic book run. There's games that tie into it, and like you said, you're having an audio drama that takes place in the Vengeance universe. That's really cool. I'm very much looking forward to, and Jared's in charge of that one too, which is going to be interesting. You and Jared have become well. Jared speaks very highly of you. That's all I'm saying. Me and Jared talk every other day. So like, yeah, he quite often speak highly of you. I do quite like the fact that I believe it's the 8th day. I want to say it's that one. You actually have, I think it's like the first page in or something. You actually have the QR code for this podcast. I thought that was really cool. So you said you have like a multiverse map. How much of your ideas have you, like, how much of the multiverse map have you got planned? Like, do you have a lot planned, or are you still kind of working out kind of like what's going where?
I mean, there's a lot, and so I mean, I don't want to, there's a lot of stuff that we haven't announced, stuff that I'm still developing, but I know where it's gonna go, in the multiverse. Trying to see in this OG multiverse, we've announced like the superhero universe, which we call Universe 501. Then the post-apocalyptic alternate future, which is the 8th day of that. That's Universe 870. And then you have the horror universe, which has Whispers in the Dark. That's 479. And so we have 3 universes that have been discovered so far, but there's still more undiscovered. So those are the 3, that we have projects currently done in. But there is other projects that I know where they're going, but we haven't announced them. And then there's still stuff that I don't know exactly for sure. But I think I'll probably play in the sandbox of probably around 5 or 6 universes for sure. I think, but plans may change, stuff may happen. I'm not really for certain. Who knows what'll happen, in the future. But I have projects in some type of development in like 5 or 6 different ones. So.
Yeah, I find when, you're a very creative person, it's very hard to not let the creative juices flow, and you end up with like, a lot of ideas. Do you have any ideas that like you kind of just scrapped completely? Like whether like they just didn't work, or, you kind of lost passion for, or something?
No, I haven't anything that's been scrapped completely, but I have stuff that I've announced a project before called Anubis, which was going to be a comic, and that was going to be set in Vengeance universe. And then the artist like left the project, and it's not been developed since then. That's something I'm going to go back to. But on the multiverse map, I'm pretty sure it still has that listed on it. It does. I'm looking at it right now on our post that we have pinned on Instagram, and it says Anubis. So that's a project that has been announced that will eventually get done. It's just, eventually you have to get there, So, but
So,
nothing that's been completely just thrown off the map and something that just didn't work. I mean, it's just momentarily delayed.
well, as a writer myself, I will admit that's actually very impressive. The fact that you haven't, found a project that you're like, or like you're just a bit, you kind of like just blow it off the table. So the fact that you've got, a very solid plan, or at least, like you said, some are delayed, but that's fine. That's very impressive. I'll give you that. That's very impressive. What's it like knowing? Because I saw this post of yours the other day. You had all 5 comic books on a table. What's it like knowing that you have 5 comic books of yours that came from your mind and people are able to buy them? Like, how that must feel absolutely fantastic.
It does. It feels great. It feels like accomplished something. A few years ago, I didn't have anything. I just had stuff in my head. And so to be able to see that in person and just look at it and just be like, look, I did this, and that's really why I do all this stuff. I mean, comics is not something that pays the bills or anything like that, and never will. For me, it's passion, and wanting to tell my stories and finding the ways to tell them and just get the stuff out of my head, because I build up projects in my head all the time, and being able to finally do that and get the stuff where people can buy it, and if one person likes the book and or gets the book, and then just getting that like a message or something, or at least someone tell you that, hey, I really like that, or something like that. That's what I do it for. It's just I just want to be able to tell the stories that I want to tell, and just at least if one person tells me they like it, then I feel like I accomplished something, and that's really all I need. And so, but it was a really cool moment, because I mean, I know I've put out that many books, but just to see it like they're all right beside each other was really cool, And so that's why I had to take a picture, because I was just like, this is cool. It's literally, I wrote this one, this one, this one, this one, and this one, and look at that. So I mean, and there's a lot of people out there that make comics and stuff, and independent or Marvel, DC, and then Image, and then tons of independent publishers. And when I say independent, they're like mainstream independent, not like independent like me. And so even though they're called indie comics, they're really mainstream indie. So I think there's a difference in the two. And I'm sure that all those people have done tons of comics, so it doesn't really, in their head, it's not as like a cool thing probably anymore. But to just know I'm a guy that, from Arkansas, that few years ago just had these ideas on my head, and now I have 5 books out, and just to be as busy as I am and have all the stuff and be able to at least say that I put my books out and I accomplished something, it's really cool.
Hey there, guys. Just a quick note and a thing for you guys to know that we have a Redbubble account. For those who don't know what Redbubble is, it's a website where people can make merchandise. They can add their logos and their ideas up onto the website, and Redbubble will make all sorts of merch for you. You guys can cop things like badges, stickers, tops, jumpers, trousers, phone cases, mouse pads, all sorts of stuff. Now, all the proceeds that I get from the Redbubble will be going back into my content. So that's helping with the podcast, Tiger Tales, all my different YouTube channels that I do. And it'll also help with the vlogs and all sorts of things. The Redbubble is called the Useless Shop, and we sell all sorts of things, all geeky type stuff, based off cartoons, Power Rangers, some video games, Marvel and DC, just it's themed off a lot of stuff that I'm a fan of. Some things are funny, some things that might be a little bit serious, some things maybe a little naughty. It's just a lot of fun. Anyway, if you guys want to cop yourself some stickers or some badges or some t-shirts or whatever the case may be, you may find something you like. It's called The Useless Shop, and again, all the proceeds go back into my content. So thank you guys for checking it out, of course, and back to the podcast. Yeah, I saw Billy's post, Billy from Zero to Hero. He did a post of Whispers in the Dark, and he told everyone to go check it out. And I'm kind of sat there thinking to myself, it's kind of cool, that you've published a book, and then Billy's making a post about it. I think it's awesome the fact that you've got people with comic books in hand. I live in the UK. I'm a bit screwed when it comes to getting things from America, but if I ever do get a chance to get a physical copy, I'm gonna. It's just getting things to the UK is an absolute nightmare.
Right.
Especially if you've gone.
Shipping's crazy.
Yeah.
And it's just shipping's crazy just to ship it to Billy or something. And I was just like, that's why I've always locked down on my Kickstarters where people only from America can get books shipped to them. And I have digital options for people, but just I really wish I could get physical books. It's just the way that things are and the way that shipping is, and just being and doing this independent wise, it's gonna break the bank just to send somebody a comic book. I'd love to. I hope to one day to be in a better position where I could do that, and maybe one day get like I'm a publisher myself, but one day get a mainstream indie publisher, to like my stuff, and maybe they'll put some books out and I can, get that stuff in other people's hands. That'd be great.
Yeah, I won a raffle from Ben Baker a couple beginning of the year, and I won like 6 or 7 comic books, and it costed him almost $100 to get them shipped to me. And he had to do that twice because Mark the Red Cornish Ranger also won the raffle as well, and he lives, let's say it takes me about 3 hours to drive to his house. So we live in the same country, and I don't want to know how much money Ben spent sending about 12 comics to different people. Like, it scared me looking at that price. I was like, oh my god. Like, it was nuts. So yeah, I understand. And honestly, I would send things to like Billy and Cosplay Dude and things like this, Christmas presents and stuff, if it wasn't for the goddamn shipping.
Yeah, that's shipping, man, and it's just ridiculous. And especially now during the holidays, shipping's gone up and stuff, and it just keeps going up and up. And I'm just like, y'all about to have to come get this stuff from my house because these shipping charges are outrageous. I shipped all those packages the other day, and I was just like, I don't like the total on this.
So one question I forgot to ask. Whispers in the Dark, you said it was a horror. What sort of horror are we looking at? Are we kind of like looking at like a slasher? Is it like a psyche sort of like horror? Like, what sort of horror is it?
Yeah, so I'm not for sure exactly how to label it. But basically, Whispers in the Dark is about a small town sheriff who moves to this a sheriff who moves to a small town called Thornwood. It's completely surrounded by woods except for one road leading out of the town. And when she moves to the town, these children in the town start being kidnapped, start disappearing basically. And the town believes that the disappearing or the kidnappings are being done by this dark entity whose legend has been passed down for generations in the town. So I'm not for sure really we could label that.
You basically, you've allowed yourself to make your own folklore. By the way, that's awesome.
Yes,
I like
yes.
that.
It's like a folklore horror. Let's just call it that.
That's fair. Yeah. Yeah, that sounds cool. when it comes to these comics and stuff, have you been able to do like meet and greets or like signings yet, or no?
Oh yeah. We've done a lot of cons, a lot of events at comic book shops. Let's see, I've done. I'm trying to think here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think I've done 6, and I'm about at this recording on Saturday. I'm about to do my 7th in-store appearance event, which is like an event that's basically devoted just to me, or Original Geek 1 and 2. We did a market the other day with Jared. We've been guests at several different cons this year, either me or Jared. But we always went together. Sometimes it was a package deal. I'm gonna say somewhere between 6 and 8 different cons that we've done. We did like a couple as vendors. But yeah, we've had a busy year. I'm hoping this Saturday when I do the event at the comic book shop I'm going to on Saturday. I'm hoping, as of at least right now, it is hoping it's the last event we do for this year because I am worn out.
Yeah, I can imagine that sounds hectic as all fuck. That sounds busy. I'm assuming you've had a lot of good experiences doing that.
Oh yeah, great experiences. Sometimes the cons are not as fruitful as you want them to be. Some cons are better, but every con that we've gone to, we have a great time. Especially the ones when we get like multiple of people from Original Geek together. Usually when we do cons that are out of state, we stay at Airbnbs together as well. So that's a fun time because there's like several of us. We went to a big con in Chattanooga, Tennessee, where we were guests at in May, and there was 8 of us. So Jared and his wife, me and my wife, a guy named Luke, him and his wife, and then Eric, who's the artist on 8th Day and who's going to be the artist on Vengeance issue 4, and then Sean, who does a bunch of covers with us. We all went, and so it was like an 8-hour drive, but at the same, it was cool because we were there for like 4 days together, and so that was a fun time. So no matter what, even though the event itself may not always be what you want it to be as far as sales go, we always have a great time at every event that we're invited to, and we always have fun being together. And so this being able to do Original Geek like this it's really a blessing, honestly, and it's been a fun year, but I'm ready for it to come to an end.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds awesome. The fact that you're able to, like you said, the con may not be great, but you guys get to band together, and it just sounds cool. I'm part of a audio drama studio. Me, Cosplay Dude 67, and Mark the Red Corner Stranger, and I actually got to meet Mark for the first time in March, and we've also met in August as well. We went to 2 different Comic Cons, and the second time I met his wife and his daughter, and I know Cosplay Dude kicks himself in the teeth a lot because obviously he's in America. Me and Mark are UK based, so I know Cosplay Dude doesn't like it very much. But like, yeah, it was just awesome the fact that me and him both got to cosplay together, walk around Comic Cons together and stuff. So yeah, I okay, there wasn't 8 of us, sure, but yeah, I understand. You get to, you work with these people, but you also get to be friends with these people. I think that's some of the best part of it. I don't know if you agree, the fact that you're not just building a business, you also get to make friends at the same time.
Yeah, and it's not always about the journey, it's about the friends that you make along the way, or some corny shit like that, right?
Yeah, no, I got you. Yeah, no, that's exactly it, bro. Yeah, that's exactly it.
Yeah, it's great though, and because of also this, that's that's how I met Jared. Was last year at a con. He come up to me at a booth. I had a booth in the same town where he lives in, and so he came and introduced himself to me and asked me if he could do if I could do a podcast with them, and I did like later in the year, and then the beginning of this year I was going to the first event that we had in the year, which was February, and I asked him. We were going to be going through his town to get the con was in Missouri, and so I asked him if he wanted to go with us because they wanted me to do a panel, and I asked him if he would like host a panel, because just podcasts. So I figured he could host a panel too, and then we could do a live recording of his podcast. And so we did that, and it was like the first time we had ever hung out, and we ended up staying 2 nights together at Airbnb. The first time we ever, second time we had ever met, or really, and first time we had ever hung out together. And I asked him on the way, once we got back to, my house or whatever, I had talked to Sean because Sean went with me, variant cover artist, and we had talked about asking Jared to join OriginalGeek. So I asked him like the next day if he wanted to, and then that's really where it is. And, me and Jared became best friends, really. We talked every day. We, stay at his house some, go to all these events together, and now I can't get rid of him. He's like herpes, you know what I'm saying? You can't get rid, because you can't get rid of him either. So I mean, you get it, right?
Yeah, no. To be fair, when I became friends with Cosplay Dude and Mark, they were actually working together on a project because Mark made his own Power Ranger. And Willie was in the process of bringing his character's life in his audio drama, and that's when I found out that, hey, people write stories and fan fictions and turn them into audio dramas. To me, I didn't even know that was a thing. And I was like, hang on, I write stories and fan fictions, maybe I should give it a go. I spoke to Willie about it, he helped me out. And then, yeah. Oh, pardon me. We started talking about not combining our stories, but coming up with something original. We did. That's called Power Rangers Global, for those who don't know. And, yeah, now these two are, like, just always messaging me. They constantly won't leave me alone. They hound me like no tomorrow, always asking me questions about stories and how, like, my life is. And, yeah, it can get kind of repetitive and annoying. I completely understand what you mean, yeah.
Yeah, you get it. We're on the same wavelength.
Yep, totally. I don't know. Jared's also the same because I speak to Jared quite often. He's the reason why I have this podcast. So yeah, I think he's also just as bad.
Yeah, but Jared's a good guy, and I wouldn't want to be saddled with anyone for life except for Jared. So I mean, like, OriginalGeek has just blossomed this year and does something great, and I think it was because of getting with Jared and us, basically becoming best friends and working together for OriginalGeek, and we just help each other. And I think that, and probably he would say this, but I think that we've helped each other because I think that he's had a lot of guests this year because of getting saddled with me and going to these cons and stuff like that. But we also both push each other to do better. And so, like, we will be at cons and stuff, and I remember at first, whenever he first started going, he was, like, very hesitant to talk to people. And we're like, you're Jared Rao. People want to be on your podcast. You're the Papa podcast. You're the best. They should be lucky that you're even talking to them. And so, like, we pushed him to do that. Now he just talks to every single person. But so we've both grown throughout the year, and I think it's really because of both of us being together and just made us even better. And we have lots of stuff planned together for OriginalGeek, and stuff with his podcast and things, and just stuff that we're going to announce, which I can't talk about right now. But it's going to be really cool and interesting, and we're going to announce that the first of the year. I haven't even told anyone that we're going to be announcing something, but I am now, I guess, telling you. So it's going to be really cool, and so I'm really excited about the future in 2025.
Yeah, Jared's absolutely awesome. Like I said, he's the reason why I have a podcast. He interviewed me about my audio dramas and stuff, and I don't know. I've been on podcasts before, but his was just different. It was very interviewee-esque, kind of like, what I'm doing now with you, and like general conversation with questions, I guess is the best way to explain it.
Sure.
And I said to him, I was like, dude, I loved being on your podcast. I wish I could do it. And he just went, do it. I was like, yeah, but I don't know what I'm doing. And then Jared went, well, think about what we're doing. Do it. And since then, he's my rock now when it comes to this podcast. He's, and like you said, he now talks to everybody. He tells me quite often the guests that he's got planned. He just dropped an episode with Christopher Lee, the Red in Space Ranger, and I've known about that for months, which was very hard to keep my mouth shut about that. I geeked out for him because I think that's really dope. And like he's been talking to me about the guests he's having on or is trying to get on for the beginning of next year, and like I don't know, he's just different, man. That's the only way I can explain it. In a good way. He's just built different, and he has such a good connection with people, and I don't know, he's just an awesome dude. I love talking to Jared. He's great.
Yeah, he's good, and he's got a lot of stuff. I know all about his stuff that he has, and I knew about, being his best friend. I know a lot of stuff. So I mean, obviously, so I'm really, he's really great. He's great inspiration, great dude. I heard your episode when you were on there, and so it was really great. Did a great job, and so I remember him telling me that you were starting a podcast, and then you do that if you give it out a YouTube channel, right? Don't you do that as well for him?
Yeah. I've got well, actually, funny enough, that actually started because he was telling me about how he wanted to branch off and like have different, if you give a dad a fill in the blank. And that started because him telling me this kind of gave me an idea for an audio drama. And basically it's on one of the Tiger Tales YouTube channels, and basically me and Jared will have a conversation about something, Jared with something. So we've done one where he gets the dragon dagger from Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, and I ask him, okay, what would you personally do with the dragon dagger? So he'll tell me, and then I write it out into a story. I'll add some drama. I've included his kids and his wife in it as well. And then I give it to him, and then he reads it. He records himself reading it. I'll edit it, and then it gets uploaded onto Tiger Tales. And so we now have like a multiversal kind of storyline where there's different Jareds kind of running into different scenarios. And then whilst doing that, I was like, dude, there is one thing I could do. And he's like, what? So I kind of explained to him I kind of pitch him the idea. And I've got If You Give a Dad a YouTube channel, because I've got a couple of channels, and I'm one of these people that, I've done YouTube the cheap way, I've done YouTube the expensive way, I've done YouTube this, that, and the other way, and I don't know, I feel like I'm not saying I could educate people, but kind of give someone a direction. If I can help someone, that's great. I've done some like reviews on some gadgets and gizmos and stuff, and Jared liked the idea and went, yeah, crack on. And then now Cosplay Dude also does If You Give a Dad a Cosplay, which, funny enough, now that you mentioned that, I have to talk to Jared about that for the plans of 2025. So thank you for reminding me about that. But yeah, like I said, with Jared, he's easy to talk to. So when it comes to pitching ideas to him and stuff, things happen.
Yeah, well, that's awesome. Can't wait to see what happens in the future. So 2025 may be good for all of us in our creative endeavors. So I'm really excited about that.
Oh yeah. 2025. I've already started planning 2025. I kind of know how the podcast is gonna go for the first couple weeks. But yeah, like you said, for Original Geek, it's gonna be good. Where did the name Original Geek come from?
So basically, when I was coming up with the name, basically Original Geek means that I was a geek originally before it was cool to be a geek. Because once the MCU came out, everybody was into superheroes and crap like that, and now being a geek is cool. But when I was in school and growing up, if you wore a superhero T-shirt or anything like that, you were kind of made fun of, and so it was kind of taboo, I guess, in a way to say. And so originally, I was a geek. I didn't become a geek because of this, it being cool now. So that's why it's called Original Geek.
I love that because I'm in exactly the same boat. I didn't have any friends when I was a kid because instead of playing sports or, being into whatever else all the kids were into, I was sat in the corner reading comic books. So
And
I
that's
can, I
kind of
love it.
why I left the geek world for a while, was because of outside influences and stuff, and changed who I was and stuff for a while. So that, getting back to the original me, the original geek, that's kind of the whole focus.
Yeah, I don't understand why it's such a negative thing to be a geek. I really don't. I mean, it's not like people spend millions and billions of dollars to make geeky things for people for no reason, you know. So I don't know. Kids are just assholes sometimes.
Sure.
So when it comes to um Jared and the podcast and stuff, isn't there like an original geek podcast, or you've kind of like working on that?
Yeah, we have an Original Geek podcast called Beyond the Panels. Now we haven't done a lot of episodes of that because it's like 5 of us, which we call ourselves the OG Collective, which is me and Jared, Sean, Luke, and Eric. And the 5 of us together. Usually when we're together, we record Beyond the Panels. I think we've done one over Zoom, but it's kind of hard to work out 5 people's schedules whenever 3 of you have children. So, and you all have jobs and crap like that. So, but yeah, we have also. I did record one episode with Kevin Mellon, the director of Hit Monkey on Hulu. But yeah, it's called Beyond the Panels. We haven't recorded an episode in a few months, but it's basically a deep dive into when we're doing cons and stuff, and we kind of talk processes of how we do books and stuff like that. It's kind of like a beyond the Panels is kind of like a behind the scenes of Original Geek.
First off, that's awesome. Not many people like do that, kind of give people kind of like a deep dive behind, like you said, behind the scenes. And having 5 people must be extremely difficult. I'm by myself and I find it hard to run a podcast. So having 5 of you must be nuts.
Yeah, but it's a fun time whenever we get to do it. I was just telling them the other day. Jared's really busy for the rest of the year, but the other 4 of us may be recording one here soon. I was on another podcast last week, and then you're doing your podcast this week. So like maybe next week I'll probably get with them and be like, we should record. Maybe we'll have a new episode come out for the holidays.
How many podcasts have you actually been on to, talk about Original Geek and stuff?
I'm not for sure. 4, 5 this year, I think. So, and I've been on Jared's a lot. So I've been on Jared's like 6 or 7 times. So I've been on there like 5 times this year, I think. So, and then I've been on Billy and Jim's, and then another guy called Adam Talks podcast that was on last week, and that will be coming out, or maybe the week before. I'm not for sure. And that will be coming out sometime in November. And then yours, and I'm pretty sure I've done other podcasts before, like year before. I think I did 1 or 2, maybe 3, honestly. So yeah, I've done quite a bit podcast of, but this year that many.
Yeah, honestly, listening to you talk about all the Comic Cons and the podcasting and, the comic books and stuff, do you ever sleep? I mean, do you get to eat 3 meals a day? Because you just sound really busy all the time.
I do sleep. I do have 3 meals a day. People don't understand I have time because I have a full-time job. I have a part-time job. I do Original Geek. I have 5 children and a wife, and I also am in college as well. So,
Jesus.
yeah, and then so I mean, and doing just other stuff. So I mean, I do a lot.
So I like asking this question to my guests because I'm just curious. What's your partner's like thoughts on you getting your comic books out there and doing all these cons and just expanding your imagination to other people? Like how's your partner? What's your partner's thoughts on all this?
Oh, Lacey's very supportive. She's gone to a lot of the cons and events that she hasn't gone to every single one, but she's gone to a lot of them with us or with me as well. I mean, last year, there's several people that go now. Last year, whenever I said I met Jared last January, it was a con. It was just me and Lacey there. So I mean, there's been events. When I went to a Missouri comic book shop in like April, I think, or something like that. It was just me and her went. So we went and did that market in Fayetteville, Arkansas, near where Jared lives. We just got back from that last night. We did that yesterday, and it was me and her and Jared and his wife Stasia. So she's very supportive. Has she read my comics? No. She's read the first one. It's just not something that's her style, but the stuff that we do. But she goes, and she supports. So that's all that really I need. I don't really need her necessarily to read the books. So, but she's very supportive, because I don't really take when I do my stuff. I have the ability to do stuff, and I have a lot of spare time where I don't really take a lot of time up from my family. Whenever my family's around and I'm not working or something like that, I'm putting all my focus. Granted, right now we're doing this podcast, but I only do it's not like I do this all the time. And they weren't even here until like 6 o'clock, or like 15 minutes ago. Um, so I'm not really taking too much time up from them. So, but that's what I try to do is make sure that I'm not doing stuff, as far as creating stuff and doing types of deals and stuff like that. I try to make sure I take as less time away from my family as possible. And when I go to events and stuff, I try to do it on weekends that, hopefully that my boys, because I have 5 kids, 2 are here full time. The other 3, I try to make sure that it's not the week that they're here. If so, I try to trade weekends and stuff with their mothers, and I try to make things work, because trying to make it where I can still be, where I'm not taking away time from them that they deserve. So.
Yeah, that's I admire that. I love asking the question about spouses because my partner, she's incredibly supportive of what I do. I call her my manager because I'll write several chapters. I'll send out the lines to my voice actors, and then I'll look at the list of chapters I've got and ADHD, and I'm like, I don't know what to upload first. So she'll actually date things for me, and she'll go, right, this is coming out first. This is coming out on the 10th or something. I didn't have a podcast recording this week. I was a bit stumped. I didn't know what to do. I was like, I know for a fact that Nick might be down. So I messaged Jared, and when I told her that, Nick's willing to record me, and we're doing it Monday, by the way, like that quick. She asked me, I think it's like an hour before we jumped on. She was like, is Nick definitely going to be there? Is he going to turn up? I'm like, yep, we spoke a couple hours ago. He's still down. And like, she's always making sure that I remember times and dates and things. So I call her my manager because it's just a little joke. But because I've got that support, and I just find her amazing. I love to ask other creators the same question, because I think it's very admirable for, especially when you're a very creative person. You've got comic books coming out. You want to get them out there. You're going to cons and things. You're very busy. It's just nice to know that you have a nice family behind you. It's just so nice to hear.
Yeah, I couldn't do that unless I had the support. So, I mean, and really because of my kids is why I do this stuff in the first place. So that way they can, see that just because you have, you're in a certain situation or your life has become a certain way or whatever, and doesn't mean that you still can't follow your dreams in some way and accomplish what you want to accomplish. Maybe not exactly the full scope of what you want to accomplish, but you can do it where it's good enough and still be happy with what you have. So that's kind of why I do it. Another reason why I do it is so, and plus my kids love the comics, and so that's so cool too, to have your kids really liking your stuff and wanting to wear your shirts and stuff, and being able to tell other kids my dad makes comics, and so just that's really fun to me. And so having that supportive family is I wouldn't be able to do this unless I had them.
That was actually going to be my next question, was how did your kids take the fact that you make comics? But yeah, that's really cool. My son's 5. He's just getting himself into Pokemon and superheroes and things, and I draw. I'm not very good at it, but I draw, and so I'll redesign Pokemon, or I'll design my own suit for Spider-Man, for example, or something, and he absolutely loves it when I do stuff like that. And because I do YouTube and he knows I do YouTube, he quite often tells me that when he's older he wants to be a YouTuber, which I just love. I just think that's great. It's cool that he's inspired by me. I love it. But yeah, I was like I said, I was going to ask you about your kids, and I think it's really cool that they're just over the moon that, hey, my dad makes comic books. Like, that's awesome.
Yeah, they're great. And just like I said, even she's all right when I do these podcasts and stuff. She's like, once you get to an hour or so, then she's just like, how long till you're done? Like stuff like that. But I mean, she just gets antsy because, like I said, it's 6:00 here, and I'm the cook of the family too. So throw another thing on there, Ty. So it's just and then I got my daughter's 6, and who has come in here twice, by the way, and who's just now literally here right now hugging me. And then my son is 4. So, I got they're younger than my boys, so who are all almost teenagers. So, or one's a teenager.
Well, when your little ones are older, they'll have even more comic books to read. But yeah, I'm happy to leave the episode here. It's been an absolute blast to chat with you, and get to know you a bit more. I've been following you for, I think since Jared announced that he was actually a part of OriginalGeek, I think is when I started following you. Thank you so much for allowing me to read the comic books. I've got them digitally for a minute. If I ever get a chance to have them physically, I'm going to. But I live in the UK, so you'd be better off sending them to the Bermuda Triangle. They'll get there quicker than they get to the UK. Let's be honest.
Maybe I should find a publisher or a printer in the UK and then just have them shipped to your house, and you can just sell them. Then they keep the one down there, and then you'll have yours.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, get them to ship 20 to your house, and you could just take care of all that, and just we'll square up later. So that would be, I guess, that's always an option. You could just be my UK supplier to all my UK fans that I'll gain.
I'm happy to help any way I can if it means getting the comic books to the UK. Let's do it. But yeah, thank you very much for coming on and chatting with me. Maybe in 2025 you can come back and we can discuss what the new things that you've been. By this point, in 2025, you'd have announced a few things, more stuff would have happened. So maybe you can come back and we can talk about that a bit more, which would be absolutely awesome. so quickly before you go, where can people find you? Where can people find the comic books? All that jazz. It's your time to, promote.
Yeah, I'll get you a Linktree link as well to all of our stuff. We have OriginalGeekComics.com, and that's where you can buy the books. But we also, if on our Linktree, which is link, I'm gonna try to spell this out, and I always do, and I'm just like, no one's gonna remember what this is, but it's linktr.ee/ORGNL geek GEEK. That's linktr.ee/ORGNL original, but with no vowels except for that O, and then geek. And we're basically Original Geek on Facebook, Instagram, I think Twitter, and Threads and stuff like that. Jared runs all that stuff. So, but yeah, the link tree is the best way to find everything. But you can also get the books. People can buy them digitally. We have a Discord that I don't ever post in. I'm not really super Discordy. I don't know. Is that a word? We're going to call it that. We have a newsletter and stuff you can sign up for. All that's on our link tree and stuff. So, but that's the best way to keep in touch with us. I post on the Facebook and Instagram a lot. So that's usually me. And like I said, of this recording, we just put out Whispers in the Dark in October. We just funded Vengeance 4 on Kickstarter, which will be coming out like March. But yeah, for you personally, finish reading all the books digitally and let me know what you think about them.
Yeah, I'm so loving the 8th Day so far. I'm loving what I've seen of Vengeance so far. 8th Day just hurt me. I really like the cover. That's what got me. I'm always the cover person. I saw that, I was like, hang on, this is intriguing, I'm curious. So that's why I read that one first. But yeah, loving what I've seen so far. I can't wait to dive into Whisper in the Dark. And yeah, guys, go check out Original Geek. If you ever see a Kickstarter, if you can, of course, support. It means that Nick can get out more of the comics and everything. I'm very much looking forward to seeing this multiverse plan of yours, develop and, become to the public eye. It'd be great. And yeah, thank you, man. Like I said, I spoke to you 2 days ago, and you were just on board. You were willing to go. So I thank you so much for that. It's been a blast.
You're welcome. Same here. Just let me know whenever you want me to come back. I'll make it happen.
Yeah, man. Awesome. So yeah, thank you guys for listening. Of course, if you're listening on the podcast platforms, rate or star or however that works. If you listen to us on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe. And of course, I've been your host, Ty. I love you all. War of passion, everybody. And I shall see you guys in the next one.
This podcast is a production of the Three Ranger Bros Studios, in association with Zeo to Hero, the podcast.